There are two ways to survive on a planet that will kill you. You can change the planet, or you can change yourself. These aren't just different strategies, they're different philosophies about what survival means. One requires remaking an entire world to match your biology. The other requires remaking your biology to match any world. The difference isn't technological, it's thermodynamic. Terraforming is the idea that hostile planets can be made habitable through planetary scale engineering. Mars is the usual example. The goal would be straightforward. Transform Mars from a frozen desert with an unbreathable atmosphere into something resembling Earth. Add atmosphere. Warm the surface. Generate a magnetic field. Wait for chemistry to stabilize. Make it breathable. Make it stable. Make it home. The concept sounds achievable because we understand the mechanisms. Release greenhouse gases to trap heat. Bombard the poles with asteroids to release frozen CO2. Import water from comets. Engineer photosynthetic organisms to generate oxygen over centuries. These aren't speculative technologies. They're extensions of industrial processes we already use. But extension is not the same as feasibility, because the problem isn't knowledge. It's scale. Mars has 1/3 Earth's gravity. It lost its atmosphere billions of years ago because it lacks a magnetic field to protect against solar wind. Without that field, any atmosphere we create will be stripped away over geological time. Generating a planetary magnetic field requires either restarting a dead core, impossible with known physics, or building an artificial field generator powered continuously at scales that dwarf current global energy production. Then there's temperature. Mars receives only 43% of the solar energy Earth does. Warming it to habitable temperatures requires sustained greenhouse forcing, not for years, for millennia, and atmospheric composition. Even if we release enough gas to create surface pressure, the chemistry has to stabilize. Oxygen needs to be generated and maintained. Nitrogen needs to be sourced. The entire atmospheric cycle needs to be artificially sustained until natural processes, if they ever develop, can take over. This isn't a project. It's a commitment to maintaining a planet in a state that physics doesn't favor, indefinitely. Planets exist in equilibrium states determined by their mass, distance from the sun, and geological activity. Mars is cold, dry, and airless because that's the equilibrium state for a planet of its size at its distance from the sun. Terraforming fights that equilibrium. Every modification you make, atmospheric addition, temperature increase, magnetic field generation, requires constant energy input to maintain. Because entropy works against you. Atmospheres leak into space. Heat radiates away. Chemical reactions revert to lower energy states. Systems decay toward equilibrium. On Earth, these processes are balanced by active geology. Volcanism replenishes atmosphere. The magnetic field deflects solar wind. Plate tectonics recycle materials. Life stabilizes chemistry. Mars has none of this. Its core is cold. Its geology is dead. There's no internal engine driving the processes that maintain Earth's habitability. So terraforming Mars doesn't just mean changing it once. It means sustaining those changes against constant decay. For as long as humans want to live there. The energy cost is staggering. Not impossible, but staggering. You're not building a habitat. You're maintaining a planet in a state it doesn't naturally occupy. Forever. Adaptation is the opposite approach. Don't change the planet. Change the organism. Or more precisely, create closed systems that maintain Earth-like conditions internally while requiring no external planetary support. Habitats, not terraforming. Pressurized environments with controlled atmosphere, temperature, gravity through rotation, radiation shielding, and closed-loop life support. These are modular, scalable, independent of planetary conditions. You could build them on Mars, in orbit, on asteroids, in deep space. The location becomes almost irrelevant as long as you have raw materials and energy. But there's another layer to adaptation: biological modification. Humans are optimized for Earth. One gravity, one atmosphere, one radiation environment. Changing those parameters degrades biological function rapidly. But biology isn't fixed. Genetic engineering, cybernetic augmentation, artificial organs optimized for low gravity or high radiation, redesigning the human body to function in environments it didn't evolve for. This isn't speculative. We're already doing early versions. Prosthetics integrated with neural tissue, gene therapies, correcting inherited defects, experiments with modified bacteria that produce industrial materials. The difference is scale and intent, not repairing damage, optimizing for non-Earth conditions, denser bones for low gravity, enhanced radiation resistance at the cellular level, metabolic efficiency for closed life support systems, making humans less dependent on Earth-like conditions by making humans less Earth-like. The energy difference between these approaches is enormous. Terraforming requires planetary-scale energy input sustained indefinitely, atmosphere generation, temperature maintenance, magnetic field projection, geological stabilization, all of it fighting against entropy and orbital mechanics. Adaptation requires habitat-scale energy, pressurization, temperature control, radiation shielding, life support, still significant, but orders of magnitude smaller, and crucially, it's local. If one habitat fails, others remain unaffected. Redundancy is built through modularity. If terraforming fails, if the magnetic field generator breaks, if atmospheric loss accelerates, if temperature control falters, the entire planet becomes uninhabitable simultaneously. Single point of failure, planetary scale consequence. There's also the question of control. Terraforming requires maintaining equilibrium across an entire planet. Complex feedback loops, atmospheric chemistry, geological processes, biological ecosystems if you introduce them. You're managing a system with billions of interacting variables, most of which you can't directly observe or control. Adaptation keeps the complexity contained. A habitat is a known system. Controlled inputs, monitored outputs, predictable failure modes. If something breaks, you fix it. If conditions shift, you adjust locally. You're not fighting a planet, you're maintaining a machine. If we assume civilizations optimize for energy efficiency and resilience, adaptation becomes the obvious choice. Not because terraforming is impossible, because it's thermodynamically expensive and fragile. A mature civilization, one that's been spacefaring for millennia, wouldn't waste resources maintaining planets in artificial states. They'd build infrastructure independent of planetary conditions. Habitats, orbital rings, Dyson structures, and they'd likely modify themselves to reduce dependence on any specific environment. Not out of necessity, out of efficiency. Why maintain Earth-like gravity when you can redesign bone density and muscle structure? Why breathe oxygen-nitrogen when you can engineer metabolic pathways for other gas mixes? Why remain confined to rocky planets when you can live anywhere with energy and raw materials? This also explains a paradox. If intelligent life is common, and if technological civilizations expand, where is everyone? One answer: they're everywhere. Just not visibly, because adapted civilizations don't need planets. They live in habitats too small and too dispersed to detect from interstellar distances. They don't terraform worlds into glowing beacons of industrial activity. They extract resources efficiently, build modular infrastructure, and leave planetary surfaces untouched because there's no reason to alter them. Silent, distributed, invisible from outside their systems. Not hiding, just optimized for survival in ways that don't produce detectable signatures. Despite the constraints, terraforming remains culturally compelling, partly because it's aspirational. The idea of creating a new Earth resonates emotionally in ways that living in artificial habitats does not. Partly because it aligns with how we think about colonization historically. Humans crossed oceans and settled continents by adapting environments to their needs. Agriculture, cities, infrastructure, terraforming extends that logic into space. But the analogy breaks down. Earth's continents didn't require energy input to maintain breathable air. Gravity was already correct. Radiation shielding existed naturally. Planets beyond Earth don't offer those conditions. And unlike terrestrial colonization, there's no backup. If a colony on Earth failed, survivors could return to established civilization. If terraforming fails, there's no fallback. The planet either remains habitable or it doesn't. There's also a psychological component. Humans evolved on planetary surfaces, open skies, horizons, day-night cycles tied to rotation. Habitats feel artificial, confined, psychologically claustrophobic even when spacious. Terraforming offers the illusion of living naturally, but it's still an illusion. A terraformed Mars would be sustained by the same artificial systems as a habitat, just distributed across a planetary surface instead of contained in modules. The difference is aesthetics, not independence. And aesthetics are expensive when measured in energy and resilience. Survival beyond Earth will likely not resemble what we imagine. Not domed cities on Mars with Earth-like skies. Not terraformed worlds where humans walk freely under alien suns. But distributed habitats, modular infrastructure, populations adapted to conditions that would kill us today. Not because it's ideal, because it's efficient. Terraforming is a beautiful idea, but beauty doesn't override thermodynamics. Planets resist change. They decay toward equilibrium. Maintaining them in artificial states requires perpetual energy input at scales that dwarf local habitat needs. Adaptation, biological and technological, offers a different path. One that doesn't fight physics. One that accepts the universe as it is and modifies the organism to fit, rather than forcing environments to fit the organism. This isn't dystopian. It's pragmatic. Because survival has never been about comfort. It's been about resilience, modularity, efficiency, the ability to persist under constraints. And the clearest constraint is this: energy is finite. Entropy is relentless. Systems that require constant high-energy input to fight natural equilibrium are fragile. Systems that operate within natural equilibrium or modify themselves to fit new equilibria are robust. Advanced civilizations probably learned this millions of years ago. We're just starting to confront it now. The question isn't whether we'll terraform Mars. It's whether we'll remain biologically rigid enough to need terraforming in the first place, or whether we'll adapt ourselves into forms that no longer require Earth conditions to thrive. Making other worlds like home is one strategy, but making ourselves less dependent on any particular home might be the only strategy that scales. Not because it's what we want, because it's what physics allows.